Well, hello. Welcome. This is Randy Turpin. Glad you're able to join me here this morning. I'm in Pennsylvania right now, getting ready to spend a week of intensive time with our doctoral students at the seminary here. And I realized I have to get a podcast episode out for tomorrow morning, 5 a.m. with Dr. Randy Turpin. And the likelihood of me actually accomplishing that is pretty slim. So I'm just I find that it's usually a lot quicker just to do a Facebook Live and just put up some sort of a unedited, well, I'll have to edit out me clearing my throat and stuff like that. But on my podcast, put up the audio from this. So I'm kind of taking care of two things at one time. Hope you folks are doing well today. This is the thought that's been on my mind. I was thinking about this on the way up, actually over the weekend. As I was driving from Tennessee on up here to Pennsylvania, thinking back over my life. You know, there's been chapters of my life that I thought went awesome and great. Other chapters did not seem to go so good. I don't know about you, but I've made a few mistakes in life. And it's important to recognize that we have to have a healthy view of those mistakes, really. I mean, if those mistakes are outright sins that need to be repented of, then do that, confess that to the Lord and he'll forgive you. But I'm not necessarily talking about sinful mistakes when I'm talking today. I'm talking about maybe judgment calls on life decisions. I probably made a mistake last night. I went to a restaurant and boy, I looked on that menu and that chicken parmesan looked pretty good. But then I got it on my plate. It wasn't good. It was too good. That's my whole point. There was too much of it. I couldn't eat all of it. Might have been a mistake ordering that. Now, wouldn't it be wonderful if all of our mistakes could be that minor? Okay. Sometimes there's more of the adverse impact in our lives when we make mistakes. But here's the thing that I was really thinking about. You show me a person who has never made a mistake, and I'll show you a person who has never accomplished anything. Do you know what I'm saying? To really accomplish kingdom purposes in this world, you have to take some risk along the way. And I mean, hopefully most of those risks are going to be in the realm of wisdom and faith and where God's hand is with you and you prosper in that. But occasionally we can miss it. I've missed it a few times. I'll admit it. But in retrospect, as I look at the whole picture of my life, I'm thinking, if I was not a risk taker, I don't intentionally take dangerous risk where I knowingly am going into some sort of adverse, terrible situation. But, sometimes we make decisions that are a bit risky because we're wanting to venture forward in kingdom purposes or whatever. Sometimes we'll find that God's hand was truly upon that. Other times we may see that, it's only by the grace and mercy of God that I'm coming out on the other side. He might not have necessarily been the one prompting certain actions. And I think we have to be humble enough to acknowledge that. But I at the outset here, what I want to encourage is don't be reluctant to be a risk taker, taking calculated risk, where you know that what you might do, some decision you might make may not be a popular decision. It might not be something that others will look at favorably. You got to be careful of what I'm saying here because you got to be careful not to step outside of wise counsel and all of that. But still, I think you know what I'm talking about. Occasionally, you may make a ministry decision or life decision that you're just doing the best you can to make the best decisions you can. And you may make mistakes at it. Just be humble enough to admit it. But what I'm really looking at biblically in Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 through 30, that's where the parable of the talents is when Jesus was talking in the Gospels. And I'm not going to go into the whole thing. That's quite a lengthy passage of scripture, but I'm focusing mainly on this servant. There was this man who had these servants. He had to go away, so he entrusted his servants with some money. These units of money were called talents. And they were supposed to invest and use these wisely, but there was this one servant that was afraid he was going to mess up if he invested it, the money he was given. So what did he do? He buried it. And then when the master came back and said, okay, guys, show me what you did with what I entrusted to your care, this one guy who had buried his talent, he said, well, I was kind of afraid I might mess up with it. And really the master was not all that pleased that this fella had buried his talent. And he would have rather seen his servant take the risk with it. And so that's really what I'm pointing at here. It actually can be something that the Father really smiles favorably on when you're taking risk. I've heard Bill Johnson and other people say that faith is spelled R-I-S-K. I think I've even heard Randy Clark here at the seminary speak of it in those terms. But I'm just going to quickly share with you a few scriptures, and this is going to be kind of short here today, all right? But in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6, that's where we read, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Now, in the context of what we're talking about here today, I believe that this speaks to us in our risk-taking when we're taking risk in obedience rather than just always playing it safe. Obedience is always the best direction to take, right? Even at the risk of making a mistake in our human attempt to obey the Lord, he's always pleased with obedience and us moving in that direction in faith. Joshua chapter 1 verse 9 says, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. I want to encourage you in that today. As you may today be looking at something where you've got to make decisions that might be a little risky, well, just know the Lord is with you. Be strong. Be courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. All right. But I also want to look at some passages that deal with God's faithfulness, even when we're making maybe some mistakes. In Proverbs 24, verse 16, it says, for though the righteous fall 7 times, they will rise again. But the wicked stumble when calamity strikes. See, this is perfect for our theme here today, that righteous people, we're never defined by our falling, but we're defined by our getting back up. The important thing is, which direction are you looking when you get back on your feet? Hopefully you're still looking unto Christ. That's what defines you, is the direction that you're looking when you get back up from your failure or your mistake. All right. Another passage here, Romans chapter 8, verse 28. God works all things together for good for those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. He works things according to his purpose. And even our mistakes and missteps can be something that the Lord will take and put it in his own mix, and he'll come out with something that's really good. He's amazing at the way he does that. Philippians 3, verses 13 through 14. I'm reminded there of Paul forgetting what is behind, straining toward what is ahead. So what if you made mistakes? You might have done some things to try to correct it. Maybe you had to be forgiven of something, whatever. But once that's done, forget it. Leave it behind. You learn some lessons from it. Keep going on, okay? Let's look at Lamentations. I've got about 3 more of these. Lamentations chapter 3, verses 22 through 23. His compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. His compassions, his mercies are new every morning. You never run out. You never do run out of the love of God. he loved you a lot yesterday. He helped you through a lot of messes, maybe. Well, you went to sleep last night. You got up today. The supply of his mercies fresh, brand new, as though it has never been depleted. All right? So you've made some mistakes. I don't want to belittle the significance of maybe some of the things we might have had some blunders in. Okay? But still know this. You can get back up, keep going. His mercy is new every day. Psalm 103 verses 8 through 14 teaches us, and I'm not going to read that. I'm just going to comment on it. That's the passage that teaches us about God's compassion. He's slow to anger. He removes our transgressions as far as the east is from the west. That's the God we serve. That's his heart for you today. 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 13 encourages us by saying, if we are faithless, he remains faithful, for he cannot disown himself. And I'm reminded over the last 7 years, some of you have heard my testimony of healing, the healing breakthrough I had on September 7th from an affliction that I'd had for 7 years. Well, during that 7-year period, there were times the Lord, in a very gentle way of correcting me, said, Randy, you've stopped believing. You have stopped believing. Here I am as a guy trying to lead in ministry, as a pastor, as an educator, and the Lord saying, you've stopped believing. Now, I didn't stop believing in God or that there was a God, or I didn't even doubt that he was good. But what I did stop believing was that there was any kind of a significant future for me. I felt like any future that I might have had, that it was kind of ruined. But I had stopped believing that the goodness of God would show up in that way in my life. So the Lord rebuked me on that. He said, you've stopped believing, Randy. And I think that might have been part of why the enemy had such a foothold with that affliction in my life for 7 years. For 7 years, until September 7th. Okay? So this is all part of admitting our mistakes we've made. But God is merciful. He's merciful. His compassions never fail, as I just read in Lamentations. And his mercies are new every morning. So he's ready to give you a fresh start today. And there's plenty of examples in the Bible. Think about this. Peter, Simon Peter, he had Jesus called him to be his disciple. Not many people got called to walk with Jesus in those days. There's 12 of them that walked real close with him. Peter was one of them, and he kept fumbling. He kept making mistakes. Remember, he's the one that tried to walk on water but started sinking, and other things I could talk about. But did Jesus cast him away? No. Then there's Moses that God was raising up to be a leader of the Hebrews out of bondage. And I don't have time to get into the mistakes he made. He killed an Egyptian. He struck a rock to produce water when God just said, speak to it. Things like this. And he suffered personally some of the consequences for it, but still the Lord powerfully worked through him. I think of David in the Bible, who's known as a man after God's heart. Jesus ended up descending from David. David accomplished so much good. Gave us the book of Psalms, most of it anyway, and so much good, but still he was a man who had sins in his life that he had to be forgiven of. He made some huge blunders. We would have cast, if it was up to you and me, we would have cast David aside a long time ago, but not God. God didn't. And we think about Abraham. You realize Abraham lied about who Sarah was, his wife? Said, she's my sister. I'm going to get into why he did that, but still, Abraham is regarded as the father of faith, the friend of God. So I could go into a lot more examples of that. But the whole theme here is, and what I want the takeaway to be, is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your mistakes have been. Even if they were sinful mistakes, not all mistakes are sinful, as I said. Some are just miscalculations that we may make in life. But our sinful mistakes, you can be forgiven of that. You can be healed of that. You don't have to live forever with the consequences Well, I'm sorry to say, but you may have to live with some of the consequences as far as this world is concerned, but I mean on into eternity. That doesn't have to stick to you, with you. And God is a merciful God even here in this life, helping you and me to still live an abundant life fulfilling his purpose, even if you've committed sinful mistakes. Yes, there's still hope for you and me and all of us. But then there's those other mistakes that aren't necessarily sinful mistakes, just miscalculations, like last night, me ordering that chicken parmesan. A huge portion. I didn't eat all of it, but still, probably could have gone with something different. But boy, I tell you, that tomato-based sauce and stuff looked pretty good, and kind of gave in to the flesh there a little bit, I guess. But anyway, even that, kind of learn from it and be a little more discerning looking on the menu, Randy. But enough of all of that. I hope you've found something encouraging here. If you've hit times where you felt like, man, I'm just in a pattern of making one mistake after another, may the Lord's hand be upon you, may extend favor upon your life today. Know that he is merciful. Know that. Be reminded of that. Receive his forgiveness. Receive his strength. Receive his wisdom. Learn from your mistakes. Don't look back. Keep going forward. Okay. God bless you. And those of you who are joining me here for the 5 a.m. with Dr. Randy Turpin podcast, thank you for following me. If you haven't followed, follow, subscribe, share, all that stuff that helps all the algorithm stuff is greatly appreciated. Well, have a glorious day in Jesus. God bless you.